Shalom Israel. Before I start, I want to give all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, the heart of Kadash, double honors to the elders and apostles in Israel who rule and teach well, to the Akims on the highways and byways, and those pushing this word in truth, sincerity, to the brothers and sisters in the truth. I'm not expecting this to be a long lesson, but Lord willing, it is an edifying one. And basically, I did a food for thought about correction. That we shouldn't really hate correction, especially when it's from someone who you may deem insignificant. Sometimes we have no problem taking correction from people who we look up to and hold in high esteem. But if it's someone who you think is a nobody, you only been in this truth a day, you can be corrected by someone that's not in this truth. Imagine that. Yeah. But what tends to happen, you see, pride tends to seep in with a lot of knowledge. If we don't humble ourselves with that knowledge, pride tends to seep in. And so the lesson that I did about correction, my brother Daniel Allah, he did a lesson called Hypocrisy, Respect of Persons, and Selective Reproof Taking, which really is like a more comprehensive take on the lesson I did, a more in-depth, I should say, take on the lesson I did. It covers a bit more things. So, I'd advise you to watch it. I shared it on the channel. His channel is Our Reasonable Service 77. Watch the lesson and subscribe. But it's a beautiful lesson. And that then prompted me to continue with this lesson, which is, hopefully it's edifying, but I'm not expecting it to be long. And the title, Our Ranks and Titles Means Nothing to the Lord. And this is what we see. Brothers having certain ranks and titles, length of time in the truth, the body you might be in, these get to people's head, and these things people will respect more than just acknowledging a correction, even if the correction is right. So, and I'll give you an example, real life example. A brother from a main camp, he got corrected by one of the top elders in that camp on something he had said. Now, during the lesson, that this correction was done, it was done via a lesson. You see brothers posting on the comment board, posting precepts to back up what was being said, the correction. But that was it. That was the only video that was done correcting this brother. And the brother that was being corrected is quite high up himself. But that was the only video that was done. Now, another brother corrected someone. Now, this brother was looked upon as insignificant, lowly, of no ranking and such, corrected someone from that said body. Now, a video was made correcting him on the correction. So let's say, for argument's sake, his correction was wrong. A video was made correcting him, and about 5 other videos from the said body came out on this brother. Now, if I've done something wrong and you're correcting me, I don't need 10 people telling me, oh, you was wrong, you was wrong. If one person's told me I was wrong, it's to wait and see if I have acknowledged that I was wrong. Then, come and give your 2 pence worth. But this is what we're seeing, as the brother says, respect of persons and selective reproof taking. Yeah, that is hypocrisy. You'll correct someone from your own body behind closed door. You won't even do a video openly to correct that person. But then someone who you think is no one, you get about 15, 20, even 1,000 videos from that body all on you. And this is going off. So when it comes to our ranks and our titles, we seem to put a lot of emphasis on these things. And these things means nothing to the Lord. One of my favorite scriptures is Sirach 19:24. It says, better a man with small understanding and fears God than one with much wisdom and transgress the law of the Lord. And this is what we're seeing, like brothers who are knowledgeable, like much more knowledgeable than me. I've been given a small portion which I tried to use, and Lord willing, I use that portion well. But brothers be failing on simple things. Basics of scriptures seems to be eluding us these days. Things like every idle word. This is something which I see brothers be failing on quite often. Scriptures like that, every idle word. And there's others, but it's eluding me right now. But the point is, our ranks and titles means nothing. And even though we may look up to someone who's been in the truth, which is nothing wrong with that, they're there to guide us. You could be in the truth for 100 years. That don't mean you'll be on reproof. And the funny thing about it, the Lord could use someone who you deem insignificant to correct you. He can even use someone who's in the world to correct you. How about that? And then a wise person, know what they'll do? They'll take the correction. Yeah. But someone who's got a bit of pride, and these things happen. This happened to me. This said brother here, yeah, Daniel Allah, yeah, beautiful brother. I remember he came to me about something, and initially it got my back up. But then, I took time out and had to acknowledge what the brother said was right, even though I was above him, quote unquote, in whatever rank we have. I acknowledge that the brother was right. And when you think that you're above correction or your rank puts you up in a certain status where you feel, who are you? That's a dangerous place to be, man. Yeah, because the Lord will be funny enough to give you someone that is really insignificant to correct you. And because you rejected that correction, that could be your downfall. So let's not put, ranks are there for a reason. It helps keep order and so forth. But at the same time, your rank ain't gonna save you. Yeah, your title ain't gonna save you. Yeah, all of us is working for the same penny, and ultimately that penny is what? Forgiveness of sins. Now, am I saying there's not going to be certain rankings in the kingdom? Yes, but ultimately to get that ranking, first thing, you have to have your sins forgiven, and that's what we're all working for. So this is 1 Samuel 16. It says, and 1, and the Lord said unto Samuel, how long wilt thou mourn for Saul, seeing I have rejected him from reigning over Israel? Fill thine on with oil, and go, I will send thee to Jesse the Bethlehemite, for I have provided me a king among his sons. And Samuel said, how can I go? If Saul hear it, it will kill me. And the Lord said, take an ephah with thee, and say, I am come to sacrifice to the Lord. And call Jesse to sacrifice, and I will show thee what thou shalt do, and thou shalt anoint unto me him whom I name unto thee. And Samuel did that which the Lord spake, and he came to Bethlehem. And the elders of the town trembled at his coming, and said, comest thou peaceably? Because normally when you see a prophet coming, it's not normally good news. Anyway, it says, and he said, peaceably, I am come to sacrifice unto the Lord. Sanctify yourselves, and come with me to the sacrifice. And he sanctified Jesse and his sons, and called them to the sacrifice. And it came to pass, when they were come, that he looked on Eliab, and said, surely the Lord's anointed is before me. So this guy probably had some kind of status on, or something about him, where I looked at him and thought, yeah, this must be the Lord's anointed. But the Lord said unto Samuel, look not on his countenance, or the height of his stature, because I have refused him. And it's the same thing. Look not upon a man's title or rank. Yeah. That don't mean that, the Lord can't use someone who hasn't got the same title or ranking. It says, but the Lord said unto Samuel, look not on his countenance or on the height of his stature, because I have refused him. For the Lord seeth not as man seeth, for man looketh on the outward appearance. Yeah, we tend to look at people's ranking and titles and give that preeminence over whether we accept a correction or talking to, but the Lord looked on the heart. Then Jesse called Abinadab and made him pass before Samuel, and he said, neither has the Lord chosen this. Then Jesse made Shammah to pass by, and he said, neither has the Lord chosen this. And again, Jesse made 7 of his sons to pass before Samuel. And Samuel said unto Jesse, the Lord has not chosen these. And Samuel said unto Jesse, are here all thy children? And he said, there remaineth yet the youngest, and behold, he keepeth the sheep. And Samuel said unto Jesse, send and fetch him, for we will not sit down till he come hither. So, he brought all his other sons, but David, he looked, he overlooked him. Why? Because he was the youngest, he was a keeper of sheep. He seemed insignificant compared to the other brothers, but we know, through the account that this was the one that the Lord chose. Yeah, and it's the same with today. Like, we can't be getting bedazzled by people's ranks and titles, or by, camps. These things bedazzle people. We're quick to hold our tongue because it's this body, but we speak out against them, or we hold our tongue because it's this brother or this sister, but we hold our tongue, but we speak out about that one because they're of quote unquote no significance. 1 Corinthians 1:25 says, but the foolishness of the Most High is wiser than men, and the weakness of the Most High is stronger than men. So this is why we need to put our faith and trust in the Lord and not in men, because at the end of the day, we may become hated for rebuking someone who may be deemed of to have some kind of ranking or title, but at the end of the day, none of these people are going to be judging us in the day of judgment. This is what we have to bear in mind. Salakia is, for ye see your calling, brethren, how that not many wise men after the flesh, not many mighty, not many noble are called. Yeah? And when you look at us, like, Lord willing, we're off that number. In the world, we're not mighty, we're not deemed noble, we're looked down upon, but we're the ones that the Lord is calling. And it's going to be similar in this truth. The Lord is funny enough to send someone who you seem or deem insignificant to correct you. It says, but the Most High has chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. Yeah, just like how he may choose the least esteem to correct the high and ranking. And the Most High has chosen the weak things of the world to confound the things which are mighty, and base things of the world and things which are despised. Yeah, could be that sister, that brother that's despised, that you look down upon because they're beneath you, as the Most High chosen, yea, and things which are not, to bring to naught things that are. Says that no flesh shall glory in his presence. Yeah, we sometimes glory over the title and ranking that we have. We tend to make titles and ranks make us keep wrong judgment. And I say that based upon another example. A brother I know, good brother, beautiful brother, but he has no dealings with me, not because we've had any aught between us, but I just know that he was told not to. You know what I'm saying? It says that, and then at the end of the day, those who tell you not to ain't going to be the one judging you in the day of judgment. So was that a wise judgment? That no flesh should glory in his presence. Verse 31, it says that according as it is written, he that glorieth, let him glory in the Lord. That's what we should be glorying in the Lord, and that we know the Lord. Yeah, and we do that by making wise judgments, man, by not respecting the ranks and titles of men, but respecting the word of the Lord. Proverbs 31:9, open thy mouth, judge righteously, and plead the cause of the poor and needy. And why do we need to plead the cause of the poor and needy? Because they are the ones that normally don't have no one to stand up for them. Sirach 7, Sirach 13. And 21 says, a rich man beginning to fall is elder of his friends, but a poor man being down is thrust also away by his friends. And this is why we need to plead the cause of the poor and needy, and especially those who are off lower rank or lower status. You know, it says when a rich man is fallen, he has many helpers. He speaketh things not to be spoken, and yet men justify him, which is what we see, you know, in this truth. Like, it's crazy. It says the poor man slip, and yet they rebuke him too. He spake wisely and could have no place. He said he spake wisely but was ignored. Why? Because it's deemed too low. Like, who are you? That type of attitude. It says, when a rich man speaketh, every man hold his tongue, and look what he saith, they extol it to the clouds. And that's like when we're out on the road. Like, people look at us like, who are you? Like, and we're nobodies at the end of the day, but that don't mean that what we're saying is wrong. And that's what a wise person will do. You know, you'll be able to accept correction or take advice as long as it's right from someone, regardless of the status. You know, but we see that in Israel where people are quick to make tons of videos on someone who you deem insignificant, who's outside of your circle, but someone in your circle who does something wrong, you'd be lucky if you see a video about it. You know, you deal with it behind closed doors and you ain't getting 10, 15 videos about it. So, but if the poor man speak, they say, what fella is this? And if he stumble, they will help to overcome him, overthrow him. So like, yeah, so, you know, let's not get bedazzled by people's titles and ranks. You know, at the end of the day, we're working for the same penny, which is what? Forgiveness of sins. Yeah, we say this thing, which I don't think we actually take to heart at times. We say it, but don't really take it to heart, which is, you know, be careful who you disrespect in the flesh, because you don't know who they are in the spirit. And, you know, I think a lot of brothers will get a rude awakening to find out that some of the people they've looked down upon, you know, was actually quite high rank in the spirit. Just in the flesh, you had a higher ranking than them. But yeah, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I want to close out and give all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Bahar, Rakah, Kadash, Kwam Rasha Allah.